Like it starts off as this kind of chamber piece family drama where you don't really have an idea of where it's going. And then it builds and builds and builds, and it just becomes this kind of edge of your seat type thing. And I remember walking out of the theater at like 10:30 with like a full day of movies still ahead of me to watch. And I was like, God, I need like a couple hours to chew on this one, because it's what they would call a full meal, I would say.
I just don't want to put any more stress on my family.
It's insane, right?
Art the clown.
I'm something different.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to another Modern Horror Movie Talk. I'm your host, Tyler Nichols, and we've got Chris Bumbray back for another one. Chris, how you doing?
I'm good, Tyler. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. We're pretty much in the midst of Fantasia right now, so I've been watching a lot of very, very good films, so that's been awesome.
I did watch one Fantasia movie. I watched A Disturbance in the Force, the Star Wars holiday special documentary.
How was that?
It was fun. I mean, it reminded me of when I was growing up in the 90s, kind of before the internet was super widespread. In 1996, I think, I went to a Star Wars convention in downtown Montreal when I was just a kid. And the centerpiece of it was that they were showing somebody's bootleg of the Star Wars holiday special. So we all like gathered in the auditorium to watch it. I lasted 6 minutes. It was just like an unsubtitled Wookiee couldn't really make it past that, even as like a 14-year-old. So
yeah, I would say it's pretty understandable, because I've watched that movie or the special since, and it is hard to get through. Very hard to get through.
It's great though, because they talk about like the Donnie and Marie Star Wars thing, which is even worse, where it's got like R2 singing and stuff, and it makes the Star Wars holiday special look like punk rock.
Do they get into how much George Lucas hates it?
Oh yeah, and it's kind of interesting because they have like Seth Green, who worked with them on the Robot Chicken one, and they've got like the writers of the holiday special and the directors of the holiday special, and it's kind of fascinating to watch. A lot of cocaine, I think, involved in it.
Yeah, well, the more I read about any kind of crazy production, that's usually why, like the reasoning behind it. But
the 70s,
back in the good old days. So I have a very important question for you before we get into Hereditary. What you drinking?
Oh, actually, it's because it's only Tuesday. I don't really drink during the week, so I'm just having a coffee in my Netflix mug, and I've got a aha on the side, which is basically like a knockoff version of Buble.
I've had that several times. I like the aha, because I like carbonated stuff. I've actually not been drinking for about a month and a half at this point.
Wow,
so
nice.
I've been trying to get various fancy sodas and fancy pops. So this time I got a French. This is literally from France. It's called lemon elderflower and some kind of French soda. And yeah, I poured myself a little glass in my little Batman mug, and I'm ready to do this because I'm excited to cover this one today, because this is a very interesting one. And I had a poll on our YouTube channel about, which movies people are the most anticipating, like us covering. And this was number one. So a grieving family is haunted by tragic and disturbing occurrences.
It's funny. So this one, I think I was at the first screening of it at Sundance, like at the press screening. I remember it was 8:30 in the morning at the Holiday Village, which is a strange time to watch Hereditary, but it had no buzz or anything, right? The director hadn't really done anything before. The only reason I went was because I saw the cast. And really it was because it was A24. A24 had already had it. And they were already kind of developing a reputation for putting out, these kind of quote unquote elevated horror flicks.
The Witch in particular, I remember, was like a massive, massive hit for them.
That was another one I'd seen at Sundance, and I watched it with like 102-degree fever. And I was so sick and hallucinating and stuff. And I was really ill. But Hereditary was fine. And it was a good one to watch because it was like a slow build, right? Like it starts off as this kind of chamber piece family drama where you don't really have an idea of where it's going, and then it builds and builds and builds, and it just becomes this kind of edge of your seat type thing. And I remember walking out of the theater at like 10:30 with like a full day of movies still ahead of me to watch. And I was like, God, I need like a couple hours to chew on this one because it's what they would call a full meal, I would say.
Yeah, it's so I can't imagine, especially having no preamble and not knowing, because I guess technically I went into this because I got to see this immediately when it came out, but there was still that buzz that had grown from Sundance.
They hadn't even done the public screening of it yet. So it was just the press screening, like randomly on like a Monday morning. Another time that was like that was recently was Talk to Me, which I saw not even in a theater. I saw it because they were doing online screeners. So I was in my condo in Salt Lake or in Park City in between screenings, and I couldn't get into the press screening for some reason. It was like full, and they were like, "Oh, well, I'll send you the link." And I was just watching it at like the counter, like, like this with my earphones.
Yeah, I can imagine. We might cover that on the channel in the future. It went very low on our poll, so if it had done high, I would have done it much sooner. But sure. I just as a little bit of a tease, I liked the movie, but I've had some issues with it because there was some really, really stupid things that went on.
Oh yeah, I really liked it too, but there's some dumb shit in it. But Hereditary, on the other hand, I don't really have any caveats with, because I still think for me it's Ari Aster's best movie. He's only done the 3 of them. I like Midsommar a lot. Yes. Not quite as much as Hereditary, and Beau is Afraid didn't really do it for me.
Yeah, I watched Beau is Afraid about a month ago, and I don't know if I'll ever watch it again. It was fun. It was good, but it's just I didn't even rate it when I watch, because I log out everything I watch. I log on my Letterboxd. Yeah. And I couldn't even come up with a rating for it, because I was just like, I don't know. I
gave it like a 6 out of 10 when I first saw it, but not out of enjoyment. It was kind of like one of those things where I respected it more than I liked it, but like I feel like I'll never watch it again either. I don't know if I want to put myself through that.
Yeah, that's kind of how a lot of Ari Aster's work is, because I love both Hereditary and Midsommar, but they are very tough rewatches.
Watch those again. I've seen Hereditary a few times. I think I've only seen Midsommar twice. Hereditary I've seen a couple times though. I really liked it, and I took my fiance to go see it when it came out in theaters. Remember, we went like in the middle of like a horrible heat wave. It scared the shit out of her. She's very wimpy when it comes to horror movies, and she loves Ari Aster. She goes to see all of his movies regardless of whether I'm with her or not. But she was terrified of this movie, but loved it. I met him briefly at like a party in Montreal, like very briefly.
How is he a weird dude? Is he like?
He didn't strike me as weird. No, just like, he seemed like a normal guy. A lot of times,
I wanted him to be weird and eclectic.
Yeah, like, Brandon Cronenberg is like a super nice guy, like super chill and down to earth. So it's kind of strange sometimes when you meet them. They're very rarely like total oddballs, because they've got to be able to get movies made and stuff like that and to work the room. So, they usually have some polish to them.
Well, after I saw Beau is Afraid, all I can think is like, so this is this guy's idea of a comedy. So I can only imagine
going on inside there. I'm sure that we're not privy to, but yeah, because
I'm not a parent myself, but I've always heard that Hereditary is so tough to watch as a parent. And so I don't really, I assume it's just because of the Millie Shapiro death.
So for me, that's the scariest part of the movie, and it's not even how she dies. That's terrible, but it's the fact that I always had this phobia when I first started driving of accidentally hitting somebody with my car. Right. And my phobia was weird. It was that. And it was also that I wouldn't remember it afterwards. Right. Or something like I'd block it out or whatever. And for me, the thing that I found the scariest in the movie is when Alex Wolff, when she gets decapitated, he drives home and then goes to bed, has like blocked it out somehow. And then the next morning, the mom wakes up and finds the dead body, like the decapitated body of her daughter.
And it's it's just on Alex while we just hear everything else.
That to me is the scariest part of the movie. And that's the part like that I'll never shake. Yeah. Right. I remember it so well afterwards. That no other part in the movie, as rough and as crazy as it gets, there's no other part of the movie that kind of affects me in the way that does. It's the domestic side of it. I think it would have been, it's almost like Ordinary People, to a certain extent,
Yeah, there's a lot of things with that like that scene, it almost like crescendos the movie, which it's kind of 25 minutes in, 30 minutes in. So it's one of those I can understand, because I've also heard from many different people that the movie is downhill after that. I don't personally see that, but I understand just in that is the big moment. That is I dread it whenever like in the first act where you're just like waiting for it. And then afterwards, it does kind of feel like a release where I'm like, okay, at least that's behind me.
Whenever I'm around the house, though, if I want to annoy my fiance, if I just go, she gets really upset. She's like, don't, no.
There's a lot of stuff that's very, very uncomfortable about this, because I on my rewatch of this, because of those long stretches of just, nothing happening, all very purposeful with getting like raising tension, especially all the stuff with the dollhouses. But on a rewatch, when I'm just trying to get everything done for the show, I'm like, okay, I can go forward with this. I don't need to be essentially depressed and brought down to the film's level to then be able to discuss it. So I definitely skipped through some of those and just hit some of the key moments, because I don't know about you, but this movie affects me.
Oh yeah.
As soon as it ends, it's like I'm in a icky mood.
For me, it's the best of those kind of A24, elevated horror movies, I guess. The only one that I would say that was probably as good, I don't even know if it was A24, is probably, It Follows quite a bit. This is the one for me that really kind of pays off, right? And I think works on a lot of different levels. Like it's almost like a 70s, kind of thing, where that kind of elevated. It's not just horror, it's like I don't want to, I don't want to come down on horror at all. But if you look at the way horror was done in the 70s, they were done as like A-list movies, right? Like The Exorcist, was like a movie that was elevated and trying to win Oscars, and like it wasn't considered, genre. Same thing as like Rosemary's Baby and a lot of the classics. These were like big budget movies that were taken seriously. Whereas I think in the 80s they got more ghettoized, and I think that the elevated horror aspect is starting to take it a little bit out of that category.
Well, I think that one thing that like this movie for me was a big turning point, especially when it comes to like awards, because I feel like Toni Collette's performance is the best performance of 2018. It is so good. So whenever I see like people getting upset, like last year, the Mia Goth not getting nominated was a big thing, where it's like ever since Toni Collette didn't get nominated, I'm just like, yeah, the
one that did that for me for the Oscars was when Children of Men got mostly shut out. I remember that after that happened, I was like, well, I'll never take this seriously again. And it was, Riz Ahmed didn't win for Sound of Metal, like that. That's like, okay, like who's, how are we even having performances anymore? Like this is actually the best. But Toni Collette is like that as well. She's amazing. But I think that it was great for her career, though. I think it really elevated her career to a significant extent. It's funny. Like I feel like I never saw Millie Dunbar in anything again. Like what's she been in since? Like anything? Like,
not much of anything. Yeah, I looked it up after, and I couldn't find much of anything, because I thought she was great in this. I thought she was really good, and obviously she is only going to be in certain kinds of roles, but she can still nail any kind of role that you want to put her in. Like she's not going to play the stereotypical lead girl, but that's okay. And
I loved Alex Wolff was great in it too. And I remember that was the first time I saw him, and I've seen him in a few other movies since then that I thought he was great. And he just recently had like a one scene role in A Good Person, Zach Braff's new movie, which I thought really underrated movie, and I thought he was great.
I did not like that movie.
I thought it was great, and he's just like this little scumbag in the bar. Like I've known guys like that.
There's so many people in that movie that are just like evil people.
I thought he was great in that small role.
Yeah, he's also in Oppenheimer.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. He is in Oppenheimer.
Yeah, that's what I thought when you said like he's in a bit.
Yeah, he is in Oppenheimer. I don't remember him so well from Oppenheimer. Yeah, it's funny. I was just he didn't have a great role in Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Though. There's so much going on in Oppenheimer where it's like
Penny Safety is the one I think who really stands out amongst the scientists.
Yeah. It's otherwise they're pretty much kind of. Yeah, I don't know. They all kind of blend together. The Alex Wolff bit that is biggest part from the movie, but also my favorite part is him slamming his head on his desk. The sound design of that scene is so good.
Fuck.
You can feel every shot. It's like I want to like make sure my teeth are still there when I'm watching it because it's brutal. And then I kind of didn't even realize it until this viewing, but Ann Dowd. I always really like Ann Dowd, and she's one of
heading the support group. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, she's great in this. I don't know. I really enjoyed her, and I like pretty much everyone. Gabriel Byrne feels a little in a little bit of a different movie than everyone else.
He's got the worst role though. He's got he's got it kind of got to be the nice guy dad, like he's kind of screwed,
Yeah.
I've always found her a terrifying woman ever since seeing Compliance. Did you ever see that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought she was, and then The Handmaid's Tale, so it's like the personification of evil. Although for all I know, she's probably a very nice woman. But so as soon as she turned up in Hereditary, I was like, she's no good.
What did you feel? Because I love this movie, and there's very few negatives that I can even say. So I kind of just go off of what I hear other people don't like about it. What do you feel about the cult aspect?
I mean, I kind of don't even know if I'd call it a cult. Okay. No, well, the cult in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it was fine. I mean, it felt a bit like, Rosemary's Baby, too, but it didn't bother me that much. I mean, cults are kind of an easy boogeyman, I think. I don't even know if the movie necessarily needed any of the supernatural element, because it was just the fact that it's, this family melodrama and the mother going insane kind of worked enough for me, right? And I think they kept it at that. I feel like that's maybe how the movie was originally designed. I think he probably had to shoehorn in some more explicit genre elements. I think the movie probably would have been a lot more like Beau is Afraid if he had more control over it. But maybe it's better that he didn't, because, I'd say Hereditary, as messed up as it is probably his most accessible movie, which is crazy to say.
There's that old adage where it's like if you give someone too much creative freedom, they can kind of go wild. Some people need to be on a leash to be able to. Yeah.
Aster with Beau is Afraid, he made his Netflix movie. It was kind of, where it's too long, too indulgent. But it's fun. I mean, when Hereditary came out, not everybody liked it, though. I remember I got screeners at the end of the year, and I always, bring them home to my parents. And my parents are more adventurous than most people are. Like our Christmas movie a couple of years ago was First Reformed, right? And they, and it was, but they hated Hereditary. And my sister, who was more into that kind of thing, hated Hereditary too. And I had some other friends that hated it, but me and my partner, we both loved it. So I don't know. But I still think it's a great movie.
Yeah, this is one of those movies that I've introduced to a lot of people and haven't really had any bad experiences introducing to anyone, except there will be usually like the common reaction is, that was amazing. I never want to watch that again.
Yeah.
Which
I felt like with that was God, I'm trying to think, what was the last movie I went to see, and it was kind of like,
I'm trying to think. Beau is Afraid was that for me.
Beau is Afraid was that, but I didn't like Beau is Afraid, though. I found it kind of an endurance test to get through a little bit, while I was watching it.
I actually had a movie like it. It's called Sanctuary with Margaret Qualley and Christopher Abbott. Sure. It's very, very good, but it's one of those movies where I don't think I ever want to watch it again because it just made me feel icky.
I'll take that from a movie, but then if there's a show that's like that, I usually won't make it all the way to the end of the first season. Like, What was the one about the black family in the 50s that move into that really racist neighborhood? What was it called? It's not From, it's something else.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the title.
Wade did it, and it was very controversial when it came out. And I remember watching the first 2 episodes and thinking, "Oh, this is very good." I can't finish it though. Like it was just too much. Right. It was the family dog gets killed. And then I was just like, I can't watch this. Like it's really well done. If it was a movie, I would think it was a great movie. I just can't have this in my life for 10 hours.
Yeah. When it's like, because I thought the same thing there was that, I think it was a Peacock show it was like Friend of the Family or something.
Oh yeah. Well, I saw the documentary about that. That was 90 minutes. And I don't know if I could watch the full show.
Exactly. Who wants to maritate in that?
I don't know that I want that in my life for like 10 hours, like watching it every night at like dinner, for a week. I don't know that I can actually do that. Some people can. I just, I don't know.
I'm right there with you, but
that doesn't mean it's not good, and I respect it. But then, then again, I'll watch like Chernobyl twice. So I don't know why.
Well, and to be fair, I think Succession is like the funniest show on TV.
Yeah, me too.
So, and I know some people that think it's very like dark. So,
that's like a romp for me though. Succession, it's edgier seat stuff.
Same. I laugh so much during that where I'm sure people would think I'm a crazy person if they watched it with me.
I just interviewed. I was talking to Kevin Nealon. Kevin Nealon from Saturday Night Live. I was talking to him about something because Burge got some art from him, and he's an artist as well. And I was talking to him, and I was talking to him about The Bear, and he was saying that he thought it was great. He said he had a hard time watching it though because when he got to New York when he was young, he started in a kitchen, and he said it was giving him flashbacks of like a really bad time in his life, where they're all screaming at each other in the kitchen, and he was like, "Oh my God, I'm back when I was like where I was with this job that I hated when I was young." So for him, it's like it's hard for him to watch it.
I've heard that. I've actually heard that about The Bear from some service workers where they're like, I'm in it. I'm in that like 8 to 10 hours a day anyway. I don't want to then come home and then feel that. It's like, which I get. Sure. But so for Hereditary, what would you rate the film?
I think I gave it an 8 out of 10 when I saw it originally. I'd probably stick by that 8 or 8. I mean, but it's held up well over the years. So I'd say probably like a 9. I think it's as good as it could have been for that movie. The cult part, maybe I would leave out, but I think that Aster accomplished exactly what he wanted to accomplish with the movie. And technically it's impeccably well made, it's not too long. Like I found Midsommar long in just the theatrical version, so
I love the director's cut of that, but there are moments where it's like I would like the director's cut for some of the moments, and I could still do with cutting away some of the other stuff. So, but no, I agree with what you're saying about Hereditary for the most part. Other than the cult stuff, Rosemary's Baby I love that movie. So as soon as that even started up in this film, I was like, ooh. Yeah,
you can't help but compare it to Rosemary's Baby though, because that's one of the it's the same thing if I ever watch a movie about like demonic possession, right? It's like, well, there's The Exorcist and then there's everything else. It'll never be as good as The Exorcist. Yeah,
well, it's just like every shark movie ever is going to be compared to Jaws.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh wait, I didn't do my rating. So this is actually a maybe the only time that this happens on the show, but I would actually give this a 10 out of 10. I love this movie so much. Actually, in the last show, because John and Lance were on, we did Evil Dead 2013, and I had said on that I don't give many 10 out of 10s. I on Letterboxd I have something like 82 that I've given out, and I've rated like 3,000 movies. It's just not something that I do. But one of the things is that the longevity of the film, even though it's been only out for 5 years, I feel like I think about this movie at least, I don't know, once a month, which I think is very, very, very big marks for a film like this.
Sure. I think about it a lot, too. I mean, some of those moments are kind of iconically terrifying and messed up. Right. So I do think it's a movie that's marinated, that's kicked around my head for a long time.
It's a good one, and if any of our viewers have not seen it, definitely check it out because it's just incredible. But for the most part, I feel like most people have seen that. That's why we didn't do like a spoiler section on this because it's been out.
I mean, I think it's one of those kind of touchstone horror movies of our era, right? I mean, it's to our era what I wouldn't say what The Exorcist was, but like one of the cult horror movies of like the 80s, like people will watch it. If you're into horror, you've seen Hereditary.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And I think that's a great way to end this. And next week, even though I had said a few weeks ago that we're doing less modern stuff, you guys voted for it. So we're going to cover it. Last Voyage of the Demeter. I am so excited for this one. And so pumped. And Chris, thank you so much for joining me and talking some Hereditary with me. Make sure you guys comment below in terms of what you guys are wanting to see on the show and what you think of Hereditary. And that's really all. See you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.